Good afternoon, I'm John, and this is a technical video rather than a music video this time. The video is made up of 4 parts. The unboxing of the QNAP TS-h1290FX, why I chose QNAP and why this particular model. Part 2 will be assembling the NAS and examination of the inside of it to see how it's built. Part 3 will be the configuration and the basic setup of QuTS Hero operating system, and finally part 4 will be some thank yous for the companies that have been involved in providing the hardware for me. So first of all, why choose this NAS? Well, first of all, I wanted a desktop model and it needed to be quiet, and this particular model is very upgradable and very flexible, and I needed ease of use. I bought a TS-659 Pro 2 11 years ago, and it's still performing useful work, and I found that the QNAP technical support has been excellent over the years, and the products have been very, very reliable. They are non-proprietary and customization is very easy by the user, and there's a lot of flexibility on disks and PCIe cards that can be added to the NAS, which the flexibility is not present with other manufacturers' product. And finally, the deal includes a lot of valuable free software. So if one's looking at just the price of the NAS, one doesn't see the value of the software, and the software really is very good. So now I'm just going to unbox it. It's just arrived a few moments ago. Appears to be in a pretty strong cardboard box. Just open it up with a Stanley knife. There you go. Right. What we've got inside. Alright. So what have we got? We've got a small box here of goodies. I will look at those in the next part. NAS is packed in plastic foam padding rather than expanded polystyrene, and this provides far better protection, so that's very good. Put that down there, and here it is. Actually, surprisingly light. So let's put it on the table. We'll just zoom into the NAS. Can't see it very well because it's wrapped in polythene. So what I'm now going to do is take it into another room, into the dining room, and what we'll do is assemble it and examine the inside. What I would mention is it's the lowest spec model of the 1290FXs, and in the past I was told I was a bit crazy to buy an earlier TVS EC1080 Plus. I'm sure I'll be told I'm crazy to get this one, but my policy is always to buy better than you need. Always do that with IT, and remember, quality products are not just for businesses, they are for consumers too. This is a 12-bay U2 flash server. U2 packaging for NVMe disks is far better than NVMe PC packaging. Right, I'll end now and I'll start the video again for part 2. Hello, we're back, and we're now on to part 2, the assembly and examination of the inside of the 1290FX. What I've done before I started this recording was to add labels to the disk caddies, because if one takes the disks out and doesn't put them back in the right order, you will have big problems. So I've labelled the disk caddies 1 through to 12. Now what I'm going to do is open the box that has all the little goodies, and we'll see what's inside. Right, we have a standard mains cable. We have a network cable. Looks like a Cat 5e. Disappointing, I'd hoped it would be in a Cat 6 cable. We have warranty and a quick installation guide. We also have a lot of small screws for the discs that go inside the unit, and we have 2 key locks. Well, I'm not going to use the screws this time because I'm using NVMe drives, solid state drives, although the system would take 2.5-inch hard drives. Let's examine the front. We've got 12 lockable caddies. I do wish QNAP had put labels or provided labels so we could label each of the caddies, but never mind. There's also on the bottom left a USB 3.2 socket and a one-touch copy button, which is useful for some people, but I've never used it. Now I'm going to fit 10 NVMe drives, but I'm only going to configure 8 as RAID 6 because with QuTS Hero you cannot expand a RAID by adding more drives. So really you've got to get it right first time. So I'm going to configure 8 drives as RAID 6 and the 2 other drives will be spare. So that leaves me 4 other spare slots which I could put SSD drives in there should I need to add another RAID array. As there's no spinning iron, I'm not using any hard drives, I'm not going to use the small screws that fix the drives to the caddies. Now in the past I've had a TS-h1290 Pro 2, and if you don't exactly line up the caddies with the sockets at the back, the discs don't properly get connected and you lose discs from an array. But I've never had that problem with any other system since then, so I'm just a little bit cautious about fixing discs in too firmly to the back of the unit. So let's put now let's put the NVMe drives in. Now I've cheated a bit and I put in 7 already, so I've just got 3 to add. I'm just going to show how simple it is. So I'll just pull out the disk caddy, take one of these NVMe drives, being careful not to touch any of the gold, slide the lugs into the screw holes there, like that, and then gently push in and it clips home, just like that. Let's push that one in there. Right, number 2. Same again. Slide the drive against the lugs so the screw holes are lined up with the lugs. Push it in gently, clips in, nice and firm, don't need screws. Put it in there. And number 3, take it out, line up the lugs with the screws, screw holes like that, gently tap it in. Very firm, very rigid, nice quality caddies, made of metal. Slide it in. That's it. So what I'll now do is turn the NAS the other way around, and we'll have a look at the back to see what's at the back. Now, let's zoom in a bit, shall we? Right, we've got 4 PCIe sockets on the left. Next to it, we've got 2 2.5 gigabit LAN connections. Pity they're not 10 gigabit like my TVS E1080 Plus was. We've got a couple of USB 3.2 sockets and a couple of 25 gigabit fiber connections. I've never used the USB sockets at the back except for connection of a UPS control. Won't be using fiber. I've noticed there's no HDMI socket. I've never used HDMI with any of the NASs that I've ever used, so that's not missed. I think that's about it. So what I will now do is take the cover off and fit the 10 gigabit NIC. So I'm going to break the video now for a moment. Right, I have now taken the cover off, and I bought one of these dual 10 gigabit network connections, because 2.5 gigabits is far too slow. It's rather like if you order a Tesla Model S Plaid, which will do 200 miles an hour and 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, and you end up with a model that's hardware deficient and only does 50 miles an hour and only does 0 to 60 in 8 seconds. So I'll just slot that card in there. Nice fit. It's good that the bracket at the back lines up with the chassis. Sometimes the bracket is too high or too low, which means the connection would not be good at the back. So I'll just connect the cable up. Now let's have a look at the inside for a moment. I don't know if you can see it, but there is an absolutely massive heatsink on the top. I'll just point to it. This silvery heatsink there. It's absolutely huge. And the fan next to it, note the fan is very deep. So that means the fan blades can rotate at a slower speed, produce less noise, and still provide the required degree of cooling. I also note there are extra cables there for 8 connections or 6 connection GPUs. The power supply is 750 watts, which is absolutely massive. Now I'm hoping that mine doesn't use 750 watts, but when I plug it in, I've got an energy monitoring plug, and I will see how much power this unit uses. Now I'm hoping that it'll probably use no more than about 150 watts, but we will wait and see. My EC1080 Plus uses between 150 and 200 watts, but that's with 10 6 terabyte Red Pro hard drives. Now everything is now connected. I've got the NIC in, I've got all the discs connected. All I need to do now is put the case on, connect a network adapter, plug it into the mains, and hope it fires up. So that's what we're going to do now. Oops. Let's put the cover back on. I'll take all these sticky labels off later, and I'll put the fixing screws back on later as well, but for the time being I just want to check that it fires up. That's a nice flush fit, nice strong cover with steel. I've got a 10 gigabit cable here. Normally I would connect 2 to get the full 20 gigabits of throughput, but I'm only going to connect 1 today because this is only a temporary location. Now let's use the mains plug that's provided. That yellow cable is a Cat6 cable. Change the zooming for a moment. Right. Just connect the mains lead up. Back you go. So it's not going to, doesn't belong here, it's going to go somewhere else. Right, power on. Good. Seems to have powered up without me pressing the on-off switch. Well, I'm going to turn it round so we can see what's happening. Right, it shows booting, starting system. Seems as though the 36910 NVMe drivers have been recognised. Not sure what's going to happen next. We'll watch it for a moment. And then we'll see if we can detect the NAS on my network. Loading driver, but please wait. Let's just check that we've got a network connection at the back. Doesn't appear to be lit, but maybe it will light up in a moment. It's pretty quiet. I'm not sure what's happening. It seems to be a little slow. Maybe I'm a little bit impatient. Two beeps. Instructions. Quick install guide. Screen has gone blank at the front. I've now got network connectivity at the back. The LEDs are flashing, so I think something is happening. Right, I think something has happened. The LEDs are flashing. I believe I've got internet connectivity. What I'm now going to do is call an end to part 2, which is the assembly and examination of the inside, and we'll then go on to part 3, which is the configuration. So I'm going to halt the recording now, start it back up again when I've got the camera focused on my desktop screen in my office. So thank you. Right, I've now relocated to the study, and we will now go through the configuration and basic setup of QuTS Hero. Now, I was going to do screen recording, but I've decided that since my camera is 4K recording, it's probably just as good, and it's easier for me to just keep everything on the 4K camera. So first of all, we need to open up QFinder Pro. Now, QFinder Pro is a free program that's downloadable from the QNAP website, and what it does is it scans your network looking for all NASes. But beware if you're using a VPN, because some VPNs block QVR Pro and you cannot configure them, but other VPNs you can configure them and you can allow QVR Pro to communicate. So although I'm using a VPN, I have set up VPN to allow QVR Pro to function correctly. And look what we found. We found at the bottom, we found a new NAS, which is a TS-h1290FX operating system, QuTS Hero. That's possibly an old level of firmware. There's a question mark there indicating that the device has not been initialized. Notice NAS 6 has got a little icon there. That's because I haven't set up the SMTP server. NAS 5 has got a problem. Problem with that is one of my disk caches has just got 10% life left, and after I've reconfigured all my NASs, I will be removing the disk caches, so that's fine. So what I will do now is go straight into, let's examine that a little closer. It's picked up the DHCP address. It's obviously connected at 10 gigabits, is what I would expect. So what we will do is just click on the NAS there and click login. Wow, that was quick. Welcome to Smart Installation. Now here we can see what the level of firmware is. There's the NAS, all good so far. Smart Installation will install QuTS Hero, or you could install QuTS. Now I'm not going to install QuTS because QuTS is a far superior operating system, although it does have some limitations on expandability of the disks. So I'm just going to press that and see what happens. Right, current version of firmware is that. Let's check for an update. Now I don't know whether I've got the latest update or not, but I always like to have the most recent version. Right, there is an update. Latest version available. So what have I got to do? I think probably click on it. Oh, press update here. There we are. I wasn't looking. It's all done in real time, no editing. It's going to be a one-take video. Is as it is. That was pretty quick. Quicker than my other NASs. What's amazing is that this NAS is actually very quiet. It has no spinning hard drives, and I've noted that the Seagate Iron Wolf Pros are actually quite noisy. The Western Digital Red Pros are quite a bit quieter, but it's nice to have an almost silent NAS. Now this NAS at the moment is in the dining room and it's not connected via UPS. All my other NASs are connected via UPSs. However, we do have a Tesla Powerwall or couple installed at the moment, so should the mains power go, at least the house will continue to be powered. Now we're almost there on the firmware. I've heard it, I can hear it beeping from the other room. Firmware will start automatically, right? So what happens next? Restarting. Will be oh dear, something's gone wrong. The NAS appears to have disconnected. I'm not sure what to do. I may power it off unless QFinder Pro can find it, which it doesn't appear to be able to. No, it's not there. Right, I'm going to stop the recording now. Turn the NAS off and turn it back on again. Okay, so the NAS appeared to hang, so I turned the power off, turned it back on again, and eventually it's picked up the IP address we had before. So let's log into it again. Right, it's got the new level of firmware, so I'm going to start the smart installation once more. I'm going to check for an update, but I'm pretty sure that I've got the latest update. It is up to date. So let's move on to next. Right, NAS name. Look, I'm just going to call it NAS-A for the time being. Username. Now this latest version 5 of the firmware forces the user to change the default admin username of admin to something else, and this is for security reasons. It's a good reason. I'm just going to call it admin A for the time being. I will change all this later. I'll just put a dummy password in for the time being. Verify the password. Okay, click on next. Right, set date and time, GMT. We'll use that time server, that's fine, I'm happy with that. No, I don't want to use DHCP, I want a static IP address. I will use for the time being 92, I think. We'll have 92. 192.168.100, primary DNS server. No, 192. 168.0.100. I'm going to leave the rest as it is. I will be installing a pie hole on here later, but we'll change all this later. Right, so this is a summary. Let's check that I've got it right. NAS A, admin A for the time being, GMT, yes. Ethernet interface 5. That's interesting. I thought it would have been interface 3, but never mind. That's the right IP address. That's my gateway. That's fine. So let's just apply that. Yes, it will clear all drives. Agree with that. Initialize. Right, this process will take several minutes. I have no idea how long this... Oh, it's quite quick. I'm guessing the NVMe drives are help speed this process up somewhat. It's 99% already. Goodness me. That was a lot quicker than I expected. Still applying the settings. Now because I've changed the IP address, I expect I'll have to log in to a different IP address at the top in a moment. Right, 100%. Now that is remarkably quick. Starting service waiting. Look, I would imagine this would be pretty fast. So we'll hang on in there. I'm not sure what happened before when the NAS hung. Never mind, they do these things sometimes. It's the same with all electronic equipment. If it fails, wait a reasonable amount of time, switch it off, power it back on again, and usually the device will come back to life, and that applies to PCs, phones, virtually everything. Even our oven. Our oven started gaining time randomly. So power off at the mains, kept it off for 5 minutes, switched it back on again, reset the time, and the oven's kept perfect time ever since. So I think policy I've always used. And I'm not sure how long this will take. Once we've done this and set up a storage pool, we're really almost there. There's not too much more to do. Whilst I was checking out the NAS, I went next door and checked the noise level, and it is very quiet compared to my other NASs. The hard drives really do make quite a bit of noise, but having these SSD drives, significantly quieter. Unfortunately, significantly more expensive as well. Right, we're back in business. It's all installed. Let's go to NAS management. Right, first time we log on, see QuTS Hero. So let's alter that zoom slightly on the camera so we can see it at the bottom. There we are. QuTS Hero at the bottom, so we'll sign in with admin A for the time being. Loading data and privacy. Right. Follow the setup instructions. Right, so I'm going to go, let's go to the App Center because there's an update available there. Alright, welcome storage. Look, I'm going to quit this for the time being. We'll do that. We'll do this in the, it's found the 10 drives, which is good. Let's quit that for the time being. Let's just go to the App Center and see what updates there are. Next. Oh, skip all that. Do you want to not display? I don't see any of that, right? So what I'm going to do, help desk update, notification center. That's very useful, the notification center. I'm just going to install all the updates first. Are you sure to continue? Okay. Right, none of this affects the next stage, so I'm going to just let that update in the background. Now the first thing to do is to go to storage and snapshots. Pretty good. Right, so welcome to storage and snapshots. Next, next, next. Right, the first thing I need to do is to create a new storage pool. Right, so next, select disks. Let's have a look. NVMe. Right, so these are 6.99 terabytes each. Now I'm going to select them all, but I'm going to deselect numbers 9 and 10. And the reason is that this is a 12-bay NAS, and if I were to put 10 drives in one storage pool, I'd have 2 drives left over. And with QuTS Hero, I cannot add a drive to an existing storage pool. I have to create a new storage pool. I don't really want to create a storage pool with just 2 disks. So I will create my storage pool with 8 of the drives. And the reason I put the other 2 in is that I put them in just to test that they work. Alright? So I will, once this NAS is configured and I turn it off the first time, I will take those other 2 NVMe drives out, leaving just the 8 in there. So the recommendation is RAID 6, and I would have chosen RAID 6 anyway, so that is fine. Yep, that's all fine. Let's go on to the next stage. Right, optimize performance. Yes, I do want to optimize performance. SSD over provisioning, that's been okay. What? I'm not going to do that because these are NVMe drives, don't need to do that. Pool over provisioning. Okay, look, I'll take their word for it and do that. Guaranteed snapshot space. I don't need 20% for snapshots, 10% is plenty. I will leave the alert threshold at 80% because I don't anticipate putting more than 30 terabytes on for the time being. So let's move on to next. So let's just double check this new RAID group, 8 disks, which is right. That's enabled. Yes, 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 yes. I'm happy with those settings. So let's create that storage pool. Note, if you downgrade the NAS firmware or migrate the pool to a NAS with an earlier firmware, the system will not be able to import the pool. Well, that doesn't affect me, so I'm okay with that. Optimizing the pool will take a long time. Yeah, I will do that, and I will optimize the pool. I know it's going to take a long time. So I think this is now the opportunity to have another short break whilst this does this work, and then we can go on to the next stage. And the next stage is really creating shared folders. I don't know how long this is going to take. We'll just have a storage pool 1 system. It says it could take a long time, so I'm going to halt the video recording for the time being, and we'll come back when it's finished. Right, resuming now. That storage pool was created very quickly. So we've got the standard public shared folder there, with compression on as the default and no deduplication. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 more shared folders. One I'm going to create with deduplication and one without. So the way we do this is create new shared folder. Let's see what happens here. I'm just going to call this A. It's going to be created in that storage pool. I'm going to use thin provisioning because I don't know how big it's going to be. Enable snapshot schedule and snapshot retention, yes. Allocate folder quota. I'm going to set the folder quota to the pool capacity, which is 30 terabytes. I've no idea how big A will be, but we'll leave it at that, shall we? Yes, the answer is I do. Okay. Right. Now let's have a look at the storage settings. I want compression. Leave that as it is. We'll leave that as it is. Performance block size. Yeah, 128K is right. We're not having worms. worm drive. So next, admin A, read write. Notice the admin account has been, I'm just going to leave that as it is for the time being. All right, we're going to change all this later. I don't want to hide the network drive. Guess definitely deny. No encryption, yeah, that's correct. Enable that, yes. Now that's fine. That's the settings. Right, shared folders. Okay, that's okay. Read acceleration is enabled by default. Do not show that message. Oh, let's do that again. Okay, right. Finish. Fine, please. Right, so I've now got a new shared folder called A with compression on and deduplication. So I'm now going to create one more shared folder. So create new shared folder. Start. We should be a bit quicker this time. So we're going to call this shared folder backup. It's going to contain backups. It's going to be in storage pool 1, thin provisioning once again. We'll leave all that as it is. We're set to pool capacity because I don't know how big this is going to be. Next, we're a bit quicker now. Do you want to continue? Yes. Compression, I want deduplication this time because these backups could have duplicated data. And the files in this shared folder will not be accessed very often. So I don't mind the performance hit. That's correct. No worm. Yeah, we'll leave it as it is for the time being. That's fine. That's fine. I don't want us to keep seeing that message. Right, so now we've got the basic standard shared folder of public, and I've created two shared folders of A and backup. Now what I now need to do is to create all the shared folders that I really need for this NAS, and I'm going to do this later. Note on this one backup I've got deduplication set. Now, I'm not going to go into I'm not going to do the rest of the shared folders. I also need to set up various user accounts with various levels of access to various shared folders. Now that's relatively easy to do. I'm not going to go through it now, but some user accounts will be read-only and some will be read-only to limited numbers of shared folders. So I'm going to quit storage and backups now for the purposes of the exercises. Now the last thing I'd like to do is to run through some of the free apps that you get with the QNAP operating system. And some of these free apps are really very good. And they're worth a lot of, there's a lot of value in them. So let's have a look at my apps, what I've installed already. We've got the help desk, which helps you with problems and log problems. License Center, that shows all the licenses for the software you have installed. Malware remover is useful. Network and virtual switch, that lets you combine two network adapters into one. So I will be combining my two 10 gigabit NICs to generate effectively a 20 gigabit connection, and the NVMe drives will easily saturate that 20 gig. Notification Center is very, very useful. It enables you to get a consolidated single place where you get all notifications of all errors, warnings and information. Resource mail. So let's look at QuTS Essentials, because there's some of these that we have to install. Now I'm going to install the Pi-hole, which is a DNS filter. So I need containerization, so I will install that. HBS3 Hybrid Backup Sync. Now that is a superb piece of backup software, because when I load this NAS up from my other main NAS, I'm going to use HBS3 to sync shared folders from one NAS to the other. and I use scheduled backups to back up NAS to NAS to NAS, and that includes the NAS that goes off-site, which also has a full copy of all our data. That is a superb tool, and it's absolutely free, so that definitely has to be installed. Look, I've not tried those ones over there. I'm sure they're good. I've just not tried them. I will install my QNAP Cloud Utilities. That's also a good one. Multimedia console, we need that one as well, because I have a lot of HD video files which are streamed around the property, and that's needed. QCenter is good. QSearch, yeah, we'll have that one. Where are we now? QCenter, QSearch will install. Okay. Right, moving along. Maggie. Now this is superb. So I've got a large photo collection, and they've all been tagged. And the beauty of using QMaggie and QPhoto is that you tag your photos on the NAS, and then you can access those tagged photos on any PC or a smartphone at home or via a VPN, and you don't have to re-tag them on every single device. So that's, again, another good piece of free software. Well, I call it free, it's built into the price of the NAS, but it's very good. QVPN service, that's a definite plus, because that enables you to access your NAS securely from outside the premises. Now what I do is I do open the port for QVPN on the router, but when I know it's not going to be used, I disable the port. So that's definitely one to install. QVR Lite, that's QVR is for CCTV cameras. I use QVR Pro, but I'm not going to be using it on this NAS. I'm going to be using it on another one. Security Council, that's good, because what that does is it scans all the security settings in your NAS and identifies any settings that are non-optimal and not secure. Look, I think we're probably almost there now. So just a quick look through to see if there's any that I've missed out. No. Partners. No, I'm not going to. I don't get. No, none of those. Right. So that's it. So this is the end of part 3. Right, I'll now go on to part 4, which is sort of thank yous for the companies that helped me over the years, providing hardware and software and setting up NASs, and in particular this one. First of all, I'd like to thank QNAP UK. They have a superb corporate website, QNAP.com, and if you look on YouTube, there are 2 channels that are really worth subscribing to. One is QNAP UK, and one is the QNAP College. I must thank Craig and Tam and the worldwide support team. Now, I've been using QNAP NASs since 2011, and I've still got one that I bought in 2011, and it's still working. I did have a software glitch problem, and they fixed that remotely. But that NAS is now 11 years old, and it's as good now as it was 11 years ago. Completely reliable, as have all my other QNAP NASs. So I'm not saying, I can't say that QNAP is better than other NAS manufacturers, but I do know from my experience they have been completely reliable, and I'm very grateful to the company and the employees that have supported me over the years. Now, what I do like is, as I said, the reliability, but also the vast amount of this free software. You get free firmware updates. It's rather like a Tesla car. You buy your Tesla car and you get free firmware updates that gives you more function. Now this is very much the same with the QNAP NAS. And I also like the non-proprietary nature of the QNAP hardware. You can fit your own hard drives or SSD drives. You can fit graphics accelerators and your own memory as well. And there is a very complete QNAP compatibility matrix that you can look at to check that what you want to install is tested and works with your hardware. And I will only install components that are on that compatibility matrix. So thank you, QNAP. Now, comments about the hardware supplier. Now, I did order the NAS from supplier A, and I paid for it about a month ago. But unfortunately, it seemed to have got misallocated, and the 10 gigabit NIC that was reserved for me somehow got transferred to somebody else. But fortunately, the company came good, and they did manage to locate another NAS and another NIC, and they delivered it on time today. So I'm grateful for that. I won't name them, but there were a few other problems that cropped up. So yes, I give them 7 out of 10. Now the NVMe drives are horrifically expensive. They're 8 terabytes each, and I bought them from Ballycom. Now I've not used Ballycom before, but they were really good. That company was very professional. They delivered on time. They did what they say they would do, and they were very helpful in sourcing a couple of extra drives I wanted at the last moment. So Ballycom, 10 out of 10. Thank you very much. I must say I have no connection with any of these companies. I'm just a satisfied customer. And let me close by saying that quality IT products are not just the reserve of businesses. Consumers can and should ignore personal and home product classifications and look at the business and enterprise product classifications and go for those products that are more capable than needed. If you buy what you need, you'll soon find it runs out of steam and it becomes unsuitable fairly soon on. So always buy a little bit better than you need. And choices should be based not on what's the lowest price, but what's on the best value. And best value may cost a bit more, but inevitably, and you usually get a better product. Now I'm pretty certain I'm going to be happy with this product. I know there was a glitch in the installation of QuTS Hero, but I think it's credit to QNAP that the NAS restarted after I switched the device off and back on again, and it recovered itself. So that's encouraging. I will now leave the NAS switched on for 24 hours whilst I load the data up on it, and not cut over it for at least 24 hours, because I need to be sure that the hardware is reliable, because if it fails, it's going to fail in the first 24 hours, and if it lasts that long, it'll be good. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, QNAP. Thank you, Ballycom. And that's all. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hello, I decided to do part 5 of this video, and this video now shows the NAS in its final position. I did make a few errors in the original video where I mentioned QVR Pro when of course I meant QFinder. You'll notice I've replaced those rather garish orange stickers with some white and black stickers. I should also mention that QPhoto is not available on QuTS Hero, and I use QPhoto to do the photo tagging. So what you cannot do on this NAS is tag your photos with the files on the NAS itself. So the way around this is to use another NAS to tag the photos and then copy those tagged photos onto this NAS. Now I'm sure that QNAP did not put tags in the EXIF fields on the photos before, and I'm sure this is an update they've done to QPhoto, but this process works, and I am going to semi-automate it. Now, this NAS has been running for 2 weeks now, and the performance is absolutely stunning. I should also comment that supplier A came good, because they did help me with the supply of some other IT parts, and they were very helpful. So their 7 out of 10 is now gone back up to 9 out of 10, and I will definitely use them again. Finally, yes, I'm a very satisfied customer. This NAS does exactly what I wanted to do. It exceeds my expectations, and I'm very, very pleased. So thank you, and goodbye. And I hope you found this video useful, albeit it's rather long.